Alright, action.
Good evening to our friends down south, and welcome to Sunnyside News. Today we have an exclusive interview with Gloria Swanson, famous actress from the silent film era and in the post-silent film era. She is well known for her roles in her films such as Sunset Boulevard. Miss Swanson, how was the introduction of the talking picture taken amongst you and the actors and directors around you?
Thank you for having me. I've been a fan of Sunnyside News since I was a kid, I can't say that I took the introduction of the talking picture exactly the same as my peers. To be honest, a lot of people originally were intimidated and scared that they might lose their jobs, and some took it worse than others. A lot of my character study for Sunset Boulevard was done simply reflecting on the people that I knew from my past as a silent film actress, and some of the people that had been beloved in the silent film era were resistant to change, and it made their careers practically obsolete. I, of course, moved on, but I really couldn't say the same for my other actresses. The directors really weren't worried exactly. They just had just a different aspect to work with and deal with now. The producers, they barely cared at all, and if anything, they were happy because they were making more money from the pictures being more appealing, I guess. It was hard for me to understand it at first because, you know, change is always something that's difficult to grasp, but you know, the pictures were just moving on, and I had to decide if I was going to move with them or if they were going to move on without me.
How quickly did things move on?
Everything in the film industry took a while to catch on back then. Most directors who were new back then and just getting their start jumped onto the talking picture quicker than the veterans of the film industry amongst us. When the 1927 Jazz Singer came out, of course people were flocking to the theaters to see the new talking picture, but most just thought it was a fad. It wasn't as well based in the film industry as the silent film. Classic picture we'd all come to know and make our paychecks from. It wasn't really until later that people started to realize it was time to move on to this new style. For example, Alfred Hitchcock in his 1929 film Blackmail, a very successful adaptation of the new abilities of the talking picture. It was one of the proving pieces of film that truly pushed people to embrace the new movement.
Since you were there for both the silent film era and the talking era, and you were fairly successful in both, how do you think things have changed the most, and you think it's for the better?
I think that things have definitely improved greatly. The ability of the actors and writers to finally use dialogue effectively has simply made stories a lot more compelling and detailed. Ever since it got popular, people have embraced it, and audiences loved it. Audio and visuals combined bring much more vivid messages and opportunities for directors and actors in the movie business. However, I can understand those who look back into the old days of silent films. There is something romantic about that past era, but it is just that, a past era.
How do you feel about the type of people you based your character Norma Desmond on?
Like I said before, I understand what they mean when they say, I'm big, it's the pictures that got small, but it's still an outlook that doesn't really make much sense and kind of impedes progress. I'm just glad that we can look back and understand that era of film. In Sunset Boulevard, this woman is completely enveloped in herself, a character that we are familiar with even in this modern era of filmmaking. What is different about Norma Desmond is that she's washed up, no longer famous, and is trying to relive that era in her life when she was famous and the picture was silent. I think that's really what those who didn't embrace the talkie were trying to hold on to, not some high art, but to the past itself.
I just want to know, do you personally wish to go back to those days?
I think everyone wants to hold on to the past, at least a little bit. I personally do, at least. Something that I liked about that time compared to now is some of the limitations that we had, and while they were limitations, they forced actors and directors to work harder and try some things that you don't really need to try anymore. I mean, well, dialogue is such a valuable tool. It's still interesting what you can get out of using old limitations and forcing yourself to take the extra mile and think out of the box.
Alright, well thank you, Miss Desmond, but I'm sorry, that's all the time we have. It was an honor to have you.
My name's not Desmond, but yeah, it was very great to be here.
Alright. Let's go. Well, thank you folks at home for watching the Sunnyside News Evening News. Your homework time we have for today. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time. We love Hollywood. We just have a strange way of showing it.
I was thinking we could double over this with like I'm laughing. Also, alright, and action.
Good evening to our friends below the border, and welcome to Big Bob's News. Today we have an... What is your deal?
Big Bob! It's his news?